Nadeem, thank you so very much for joining us this evening. I really appreciate your time. I really appreciate you coming along to share the story so far, building Phlo, taking it from a true startup to a real scale up as you have it at the moment. I think we have lots of interesting things to talk about, potentially controversial in areas, but I think we can all do with hearing some of it. So I guess to start things off, the classic, how did you find yourself in the wonderful world of startups, or perhaps less not so wonderful?
Okay, Johnny, thank you for having me. It's appreciated. I'm obviously well aware of startup grind. And actually, I think 4 or 5 years ago, it was just me on my own as I was trying to build up a company. I've now got a couple of companies. I think I employ about 80 people all in. So 5 years later, but to give you my background, I grew up in the north of Scotland, in a really lovely place called Golspie. Mum and Dad had a wee shop there. They just retired a couple of years ago, and I ended up going to Glasgow Uni and did my degree there. After wasting 2 years after my degree, I got my first real job when I was 25. In that period, I did a bit of nightclub bouncing. So nightclub bouncer for a couple of years, and worked in a call center as well. So I've done a variety of jobs, but I got lucky. I got forced to apply for a graduate program, and I joined the Royal Bank of Scotland back in 2006, pre-recession, onto a program called the Fast Track program, which took high potential talent and actually kind of turned them into, give them the training to be corporate bankers. So I ended up working in the south of England for a few years. I did a variety of jobs with the Royal Bank through the recession as well, which I still is seared into my mind because it was a difficult time, and I didn't expect to go through another recession like we had in 2008 again now.
Yeah.
I came back to Scotland in 2012. I was International Commercial Director for HSBC Scotland at that point. So I'd obviously had a pretty rapid career trajectory from joining a graduate program in 2006. And then, got to 2014 and I needed a change. I was in my early 30s at that point, about 31. Or 32 even at that point, and I decided to apply for a program called the Saltire Fellowship Program. And actually I got accepted on that program, and I ended up going to with Entrepreneur Scotland, and I ended up getting shipped off to Babson College in near Boston for about all in a number of months, and it was good. I suppose it opened my eyes to entrepreneurship and having the confidence to go and start my own company, which I went and did when I came back to the United Kingdom.
Mm-hmm.
So I came back, and when I came back, obviously I'd had the idea for what Phlo was to become, and I ended up starting that company, and I incorporated the company in 2015. I think I told you in the pre-interview that I actually didn't really do much with Phlo until like 2017. I didn't know what I was doing.
Aye.
Another wee story as well, Johnny. Right, I'm still sitting the flat that I'm sitting in. I still have the same flat as 2015. Right.
Mm-hmm.
But obviously a bit more wrinkles now and a little bit less hair. But I think the main thing was that the thing that got me to where I needed to get to was kind of sheer drive and determination. And actually, I'll probably a never die attitude, because Phlo has actually died a number of times and actually been reborn a number of times, and that's just been through kind of sheer determination. Does that answer the question?
Yeah, absolutely. And that actually leads on to what I guess one of the main areas I'd love to talk about this evening is like from startup to scale up. You have a very different, a different, not opinion, but exactly an idea of what they both are. In 2015, you incorporated a company, had some ideas, probably played around with some early stuff, but you mentioned like, if you read anything about it, Phlo's really taken off in the last year and a half kind of period, or at least since 2017. So what changed, or what has changed about your mindset, and also what has changed about the company from incorporating in 2015 to really growing?
A really good question, right? So the idea I came back with Phlo is radically different from what the company is, right? So I almost went through a 2 or 3 exploration phase of actually going through and understanding my market, and then understanding what was going to work and not going to work. And actually, as part of that, I kind of realized that actually, look, fundamentally, what I'm building with Phlo is a technology business, right?
Yeah.
Our technology, our technology team is larger than, it is a large technology team, right? We will likely have 20 plus people just solely working on technology in our company end of this year. I realized that to actually pull off the vision of what we wanted to do, it actually requires a lot of upfront capital. So you need investment, right? Mm-hmm. But generally, people won't give you investment if you don't have a product, or traction or anything. So it's chicken and egg.
Yeah.
So I ended up, at the early stages, it was borrowing money and getting investment from friends and family type people, very, very early stage angel investors. And actually, we invested a lot of time. And actually, a big sea change for me was I also realized that actually to pull off what I wanted to do, I needed a really, really exceptional team.
Yep.
So again, it's chicken and egg, and I sympathize to anybody going through this at this moment in time. Is sometimes if you want to go and build a technology company, you need to go and hire the best people. But if you have no money to hire the best people, how do you do that unless you're a coder or an engineer yourself? So it's that whole chicken and egg situation. But I mean, generally all companies and businesses are different, right? So your capital requirements for a company or a business will be based on what you do, what kind of business you're looking to build, and what your market opportunity is to go and do that. I was just really lucky that I had some networks, again, through Entrepreneurial Scotland, where actually I was able to raise investment. So a lot of the early stage investment for Phlo wasn't actually raised in Scotland. It was actually raised in the United States. And that was just through sheer coincidence. There was a nice lady who was on the board of Entrepreneurial Scotland, who's from Scotland but lives in Boston. Mm-hmm. She came in for a very small angel investment, and then she passed it to her financial advisors in Boston, who are really nice people. They said, obviously they did the due diligence on her behalf, and they said, we'll invest, and then we'll pass it to our clients. So next thing I know, I had a couple of $100,000 from some US investors who were totally up for it. And I think the mentality of US investors were very, very different from UK investors, or particularly in Scottish investors. It's very difficult, and we'll talk about that, about raising kind of investment capital. That initial kind of seed funding, we got a really, really basic product. I managed to hire some good people. I made some big mistakes in my team. There's certain people I had to get rid of. But I made some good hires, and we managed to get a product off the ground. And once there's a little bit of progress, you then get a little bit more money. Again, that US network that we'd established, I managed to get some further investment then from some other high net worth individuals. The next thing we know, we got a product and we're up and running and we're launching. Yeah. So, but I think the main thing that I came away from this is the business wasn't going anywhere with having 3 or 4 people. Mm-hmm. We had 2 guys working on tech, right? Nothing was getting done or getting built. Not because they're bad at what they do. That's not enough people. So I think part of the persuasion at the start was to persuade people to give me some early stage investment to kind of get this up and running. Mm-hmm. And to give you the kind of the background, when we were about to launch, we finally launched. So we went through development hell. So I think really the company only really took off or started really real work on it in 2017. Yeah. We launched in October 2019, which was far too late. But at that point we were 7 people, right? So I'd actually pushed the boat out, and actually I really, really dipped into whatever money I could find personally.
On that stage, at what stage, like on a capital raising thing, is that you've had your first angel thing, or what?
Yeah, so we've raised angel funding at that point. We've raised probably 500, 600 grand at that point. Okay, a lot of money, right? Again, I found it easier to raise that capital outside of Scotland because there was much more capital available in the United States, and we were 7 people at that point. So things change completely when you're a startup as soon as you get something launched. Okay. Mm-hmm. So we then got something launched, and then we managed to we started getting our first customers and a little bit of traction, and then we went out to our investors again, and lucky enough they invested a further several £100,000 in January 2020. And we did a several £100,000 again in April 2020, but we had circumstance was kind of in our favor because what we did was in vogue at that point. So I think part of startups is also a bit of luck, and I'm not saying that the pandemic was luck. Pandemic's a terrible thing, but for what we do, it was a product at the right time in the right place.
Yeah,
and investors saw that as something to do that. So, I mean, during, we raised a ton of capital. I mean, you talked about the funding round we did at the end of last year, and we did raise about £1 million earlier in the year. We just didn't tell anybody about that. But I think the key thing was the world changes for a startup when you actually finally have a product up and running. And actually, if you look at the product that we had up and running when we first launched, it is radically, radically different from what we have now, which is a much more polished and refined product. And the key is to carry on that kind of refinement and polish. And I have a mentality that our product is never, ever finished, and it's always going to be developed and to be changed. But we're not there yet, Johnny. We're not, we're not at product market fit. We're still getting there. I mean, I had a really great idea at the start of 2020, which is really that. If I think about all the ideas I've had, that was the one that changed the company radically. So what I realized was my initial plan for our product was we were going to be an on-demand pharmacy, right? So, I mean, I always describe it as 3 boxes. So we control all the technology, we control the pharmacy bit, we control the logistics bit. So we do the delivery of pharmacy. So I have to go and build out this technology platform. I have to build out this pharmacy kind of restructure. And we started off in London. I'll talk about London in a bit. And then we have to get our logistics network, which was really hard, but we managed to get that up and running. But what I realized was that all the engineering and tech that we had built, it was actually quite attractive to other people. So we'd actually built this as our own product, where we win customers, they sign up on our website or our applications, and it builds. What I didn't realize, and I came up with this, it was like a flash of inspiration, was that was really attractive to other health tech companies. So, for example, Babylon Health. So Babylon, you might know Babylon, who are the unicorn in London. They were having terrible issues with their online doctor app and issuing prescriptions to local pharmacies for patients to collect. They were hating it.
Yeah.
So what we offered to them was an open API. It said you can plug into Phlo systems and you can treat our pharmacy stack as if it was your own. So I came up with the idea we'll be the Amazon Web Services of the pharmacy. So all that tech and infrastructure we built for our own business, open it up. And that's become one of the large parts of our company now. So we have some quite significant players in the telemedicine market, the digital health market, who are now customers of Phlo. So we sit, and the interaction is they might do an online doctor, they might go and use Babylon or another online doctor service, and then that plugs into Phlo to fulfill the prescription bit or the last mile delivery bit.
Yeah, and as you say, being the Amazon Web Services of Phlo, well, if you can capture the same sort of margins that AWS managed to capture, that would be quite beautiful.
We're a different type of business, but
absolutely.
But fundamentally, the idea was the same. Can we open our infrastructure to allow? Because actually, fundamentally, I'm still getting paid for every transaction. So if you think about it, I can either go and spend a lot of marketing capital and start to bring those customers in. Or I can actually let other people plug into my systems and actually I'll service their customers.
We'll do the back end.
So actually, it's like a joint. So for example, what we do with Babylon is joint branded. It's Babylon powered by Phlo in terms of the pharmacy bit.
Yep.
So that was a big thing for us. But I mean, I wrote this down before I started the call because it's always good to remember this. I mean, we're 7 people in October 2019. We were 14 in January 2020. I don't know what we were halfway through 2020. I need to go and look it up. But we're about 40 now, and we'll probably be. I mean, I'm going to make an announcement on LinkedIn with a number of hires we've just made. I mean, we are hiring like crazy. We're likely to be a 60-person company by May by May 21. I'm probably likely to be about 100 people by the end of the year.
Yeah, true. As you say, from startup, 7 people in a room, that's, to a true scale up within a year. And as you say, right time, right place does help.
Yeah.
At the same time, you wouldn't be in the right place, right time had you not built everything you built up to that stage. An area I'm really intrigued about, I want to come on to hiring. There's a whole bunch of areas I want to talk to you about. But an area I'm intrigued about just before that, as you mentioned, you have the full stack, you have the logistics, you have the technology, and you have the pharmacy.
Yeah.
How's it been trying to build up all three at once, different kinds of people, different areas? What's the process been like and how you find it?
So the way I approached it was, there is no business if we don't get the technology up and running, right? So effectively that had to be where we put most of our investment at the very start. So let's get a basic app, a basic product that works. So I mean, what people don't realize that a big part of what they see in Phlo is the patient-facing app. There's actually a lot of engineering in the back to integrate into various systems, and also a custom operating system that we run in our own pharmacy to make it all work and run seamlessly. So that there was a lot of investment into that area. So once that's done, or you have a basic product, you have to kind of get the pharmacy bit. So again, we built the pharmacy infrastructure. And for us, I mean, we're a Glasgow headquartered startup with a lot of people in Glasgow now, but we consider ourselves also to be a London company because we make nearly a large proportion of our revenue. So our first base, it was really bizarre being a Glasgow-based startup. We decided London was going to be our core market. So we're kind of split now between those two cities. But we did that because we thought that's where the market opportunity was. It was big, expansive, and actually we could build a customer base out of that. But that was the interesting way of doing it for us. So there's been a lot of challenges along the way, but I'm sure we can get there.
Yeah, as you say, it's very tempting to imagine to start off and say, okay, what's the easiest problem I can solve? I'll take one of the three. But you look at it.
Well, the other thing, Johnny, is you can't solve all the problems at once, right? So again, it was Adam Hunter, who's our chief commercial officer, who's a good friend of mine, joined the company. So again, this thing wasn't going anywhere fast. I'd hit a brick. I had hit a brick wall personally. It wasn't getting to launch. And actually, like I said, the key to a startup is you need to build, the key to any business is, do you have a product that people want to buy, right?
Yeah,
that's it, right? Actually, I was pretty certain that we'd done all the research that we had a product that if we could get up and running, people would want to buy that product. But there's significant technical challenges to build that team to go and do that. And I was lucky, I made a really, really good CTO hire. Yeah. But what Adam said to me, and I agreed with him at the time, was we are kidding ourselves if we think we can go and build a technology business, a full-scale pharmacy business, which we actually did, and a logistics business. So in the end, we partnered with another startup in London who effectively became our delivery arm.
Okay.
And that's a good relationship, and that's worked really, really well. I think because I didn't want to go and manage 20 drivers to go and make this work. I just didn't have the time or the inclination or the knowledge to go and do it. So we partnered where we needed to. And that's worked really well. And I think that relationship will carry on working well. And there may be something we do differently in the future. But at some point, we're likely to perhaps take some of that back in-house. But that is how we kind of pulled off those three pillars, as I call it. We had to get, this business only works if you get all three of those pillars up and running simultaneously and working seamlessly. Because that's, if you look at any world-class digital product, right, the reason we use digital products like Uber or Deliveroo, why do we use them? We use them because they're easy. They're seamless. You don't even have to think about it. It's easy for me to spend my money. That was the mentality we came up with Phlo. And, don't get me wrong, like I said, what we launched with was a bad alpha, right? But what we have is a really, really polished product. And actually, if I look at it, even within our engineering team now, there's multiple teams within our engineering team. We have 4 or 5 separate teams within engineering now. So again, it's building that up. So, but, like I said, if I think about it, my challenges were raise a little bit of early finance. Didn't do it in Scotland because far too difficult to raise money. I just could not raise money in Scotland. I found it possible, right? But I wasn't going to give up. So therefore, you raise it elsewhere. I was lucky I had a network to allow me to do that. Next challenge is hire the right people. I made some massive mistakes. hired the wrong people in engineering, had the wrong commercial guy, had to get rid of them, and I had to bring in a top class CTO, which I did. And then we finally got a product up and running. Like I said, circumstances then went in our favor, and we still building up the customer base slowly but surely. At the same time, then I had this great idea that we could open up that technology and infrastructure to other healthcare providers, because that was in the vogue. And it turns out that's how we kind of got a very, very quick product market fit, really, really quickly. And it meant that I could go out and say, oh, we work with Babylon Health, which is really crazy, because they're a unicorn and they had the choice of who they work with, but they loved. So actually I always tease Babylon now that, we kind of went with them saying we could do X, Y, and Z. And in fairness to them, they gave us the opportunity to go and do it. We hadn't actually built it though.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Oh, okay, that's a fun.
We built it, but we hadn't. But that was okay, because the main reason was we then talked to them about, I had this idea, they agreed it was a great idea, and if they had that product, they would take that product. So we then refined it and built it on that basis, taking what we'd already built for the core Deliveroo style application.
Yeah, and everything that actually you built it a lot with a customer in mind, with somebody who you knew is effectively going to use.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think the main thing for me has always been, we work on, we have a really, really agile company working in terms of engineering. We work in 2-week sprints, and everything is, we are very, very product focused at the business. We don't build anything unless it's what the customer is looking for. And actually, that's something we're very good at. So I always talk about my main 3 things at Phlo have always been, right, we have really, really great engineering. So that, like I said, was a sticky point, but we finally got there in the end. We have great design. So another area I really heavily invested on in this company. If you want to disrupt pharmacy and do something really different, I thought great engineering, great design, because that's something you don't get in pharmacy normally. And then great customer service. So we aim to have that really personable kind of customer. So can you build a digital product that has a personality, or where there's a personality at the end of it? And if you look at our reviews on Trustpilot, which we just had another one there, that is what the company, so again, going back to what world-class digital products look like, really easy, seamless to use. And actually for us, if I'm going to compete with some of my larger competitors, it's because I offer better service. And actually, it's something we care about deeply. It's something that I care about very deeply personally. So actually, I take it really personally if we get a bad review. So again, we've had a couple of bad reviews, and it's always been about what can we learn. Even when we get a customer query, I actually still scan every day every customer query that comes in, and actually I write everything down, and then I try and get the ideas of how we can change the product to kind of make it better. So I think one of the reasons we've done well is that kind of product focus and customer focus.
Yeah, absolutely. No, that makes a lot of sense. It's interesting you mentioned that as well. The CEO of the company I work for out with within Startup Grind is still very customer focused to the same extent that you suggest. All kind of incomings inquiries will jump in at random times. So
I know you're talking about. He's a nice bloke. I've talked.
Yeah. So he's very, very customer focused as well. It's interesting, the parallels there. You mentioned, we talked a little bit about hiring in between the two. Made some very good decisions, made some very bad decisions potentially before that. As you've gone from, as I say, startup to scale up, how's your hiring process changed, and like what's different from then to now?
Okay, right. Startups sometimes attract the wrong type of people. Okay, and now I'm going to be really controversial here. Sometimes they attract the wrong type of people who want to join startups because they think they're cool. Right? Startups not cool. Startups are really, really hard place to work. It's stressful. You have to go and work hard. You're, potentially you might lose your job because the whole thing is going to fold. Right? It's a really difficult place to work. Okay. What I realized really quickly was that actually we'd hired a lot of very, very young, talented people who had the right mentality, but we also needed a bit more experience as well. So actually it's one of the best things I did well was we hired a little bit of experience. We had to pay the money to get that person in. We had to sell the vision of what we wanted to do. But for me now, we have a very collegiate approach to hiring. So the way I've looked at it now, I've got a very settled senior team who I respect immensely. Okay. So to tell you something about me, Johnny, I've got a short temper, right? I've got a lot of passion, a lot of energy. I also got a short temper, right? I have a senior team now that respect me enough to tell me when I'm in the wrong, and I will listen to them as well, right? And also, so therefore, I've hired the right people, and they'll believe in the vision of what we want to do. So the thing I did well was I had a good vision that they believe in, right? Mm-hmm. What we then do is I've hired really good people, so I trust the people that I've hired to hire really, really good people as well. And we have quite an extensive approach to the way we hire. So we try and get mixed. We try and get whenever we hire, if it's generally, we'll still like to try and hire people we know at this stage, because we have a little bit of, we can tell if what they're like as a person before we hire them. But generally, we'll try and get different areas of the company to come involved in the hiring process. So, for example, designer, we might get somebody from the design team, somebody from the marketing team, somebody from the engineering team. I think part of it is we don't want to hire people. We want to hire top quality people in terms of skill set, but I think the more important thing for us is attitude. So we don't want to hire any dickheads, to be honest. I've had to fire people. I don't like having to do that. So I'd rather hire really good people that get what we do and will fit in with what we do. And actually, believe it or not, for 40-man company or 40-person company, our politics are very low, because actually we've hired in the right way, and actually everybody believes in what we're doing. That's going to become more difficult as we get bigger. And actually, I've kind of stepped back a lot from the hiring. There's certain people that I'll still hire for the senior roles, but I mean, we just hired 3 or 4 designers there and marketing people. I didn't really get involved in that, but I will get involved for like a final interview, just for a 20-minute chat, and make sure that they pass my test. I just want to make sure they're good and reasonable people. I'm not there to kind of assess their technical abilities, but will they fit in with what we're doing at Phlo? But that's not been, that has been an evolution more than anything else. We've had to adapt that. And like I said, there's an old saying, right, that you don't hire really good people to tell them what to do. I hire really good people for them to tell me what to do. That's generally my mentality. And I will always listen to my team. The number of times they've saved me from making a bad decision, I can't count on my hand. So that's really, really important. So I think the key is like that team part is really, really important. I've now got to a stage where actually I spend a lot of my time on the strategic aspects of what we want to do on day-to-day stuff. And that's because I've got really, really good teams running engineering. I've got exceptional people running pharmacy for me. I've got exceptional people running marketing. And it just goes, but I've set out the strategy and the vision of where we want to get to and what the kind of, so yeah, I think that is something, if I look back, having made some terrible hiring decisions in the past, that's something we really learned from. So again, be very careful who you hire when you're a startup, because like I said, it can attract the wrong types of people. It's not about having a trendy haircut or a trendy beard or whatever else. It's about working really, really hard in a startup. It's about intense hard work. One of my team is on this call today, and she mentioned to me the other day that actually, the team is really, really motivated. So that's one good thing. Again, look, I'm a big man. I'm a firm believer. I will work whatever hours I need to work to make this work. I don't expect my team to do that, and I never have ever said that I expect the team to work harder. But they work hard because they believe in what we do. So that tells me what I'm doing is right.
Yeah. No, it's absolutely brilliant, as you say. So you brought together this team, a startup as a team. It's people, it's people coming together to build something very cool. And Jordan, a quick one I want to hit on. I think it's actually something you said earlier in the event, but I think it's really interesting. Like, I was born in Scotland, I'm very proud Scot. You're born in Scotland, very proud Scot. It's difficult, nigh on impossible, to raise money in Scotland. There's lots of great things about the country, a great place to have a HQ, but lots of kind of downsides. So what are some things in your mind that we do right? Yep. What are some things we do really, really wrong, in your opinion, controversial or not? I want to hear it all.
Right. Okay. I think the main thing that we do is there's a lot of early stage investors in this ecosystem that are not fit for purpose. They try and shaft early stage entrepreneurs. That's my opinion. I've never had to take their money because I've avoided them like the plague. That has to change. If you want to build a world-class startup ecosystem, you need more good people who have built and run companies to scale, to give back. I'm very lucky that some of my investors, particularly in the United States, are actually Scottish but I've had huge exits and are actually backing other entrepreneurs, but not because they're wanting, because they want to help. So my mentality is, I will give back. My job, if I'm successful, and I will be successful, is to give back to. So I'll go and do my angel investing, and I will, look after that. But that's not for me to go and turn some kind of profits for myself. I think I feel if I've made my money, that's cool. I'll invest, and if I get lucky with that investment, great. But my job is more to pass the skills and knowledge. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. Yep.
I think the other part of it is a lot of the entrepreneurial support that we get in Scotland is wrong. Frankly, it's completely and utterly wrong. The biggest problem in Scotland is we have people that have run entrepreneurial support systems and parts of the ecosystem that have never ever ran a company or a business. And one of the best bits of knowledge that I ever got was at Babson, was most of the professors. So again, a lot of the knowledge that I took building Phlo, I took from when I was in Babson, a very short period, but I still remember it every day. Most of the professors there were entrepreneurs. So again, it comes back to that giving back bit. My job, if I'm very successful, or other people that are successful in this ecosystem, is to teach and to give back. So to give back through capital, if they have that capital to do that, but do it in the right way.
Yep.
And secondly, teach, which is probably even more important.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense. And yeah, it's interesting. Well, as I say, on my own viewpoints, I've seen a couple of companies, friends or friends of friends, sell 45% of their company on their first angel round. And I wish you the very best of luck if you do that.
Yeah,
but
that doesn't work, Johnny, right?
Exactly, I agree.
Because frankly, naturally, businesses have to go through a number of funding events to get to the end point, okay? If you take everything away from the entrepreneur in that initial angel funding round, you leave nothing left to actually give them anything to strive for. The whole point of building a company is, right? I mean, you hope as an entrepreneur that you'll make some value for yourself. Leave some value for the entrepreneur to go and create some value for themselves as well. So that's the wrong approach. But like I said, there's a lot of that bad behaviour in Scotland, and I will call it out. We are now in a position where we are likely to be a company that is turning over the tens of millions in the next 12 months.
Yeah.
If I see behaviour like that, I will call it out, and I will call it out publicly, because I don't like it. It's not the way we build an ecosystem. But what will help there is if we get more people into the ecosystem in senior positions that have actually run companies in the first place. And build companies in the first place.
You're absolutely spot on. You're absolutely spot on. So there's so many different things I want to talk about, want to ask you about. I want to talk about finance. I want to talk about the future of digital health. We also have an incredible audience with us that have a lot of brilliant questions. So I'm going to ask one more question on startup funding, because it's my area that I'm really interested in. And I encourage you all, as I say, get your questions in. We'll be coming to you very, very shortly after this one to get the audience questions. So if you haven't already, get them in, upvote your favorites. On me, I'd like to talk a little bit about your experience crowdfunding, or experience, as you say, a lot of small raises at first you didn't announce. Like you talked about £1 million raise you didn't announce, an interesting decision. You've then done a crowdfunding and gone to the press. Of course, crowdfunding is the opposite of a stealth raise. It's very loud and proud. How was each experience? What's different? What's been good and bad about both?
Okay. I've got a very firm view in raising money, right? When I raise money, I'm selling a part of my company, which I'm unlikely to get back because it's an increase in value, right? That's not a nice thing for an entrepreneur to do. So therefore, if you're taking money, you need to understand why are you taking money, right? You're taking money to build something. So generally, I've seen in Scotland and other places around the world where early stage entrepreneurs think they have made it because they have raised some financing. You've done nothing. Right? That money is meant to be fuel in the tank to allow you to build a product or build a customer base or do whatever on your journey, right? So for me, I'm very, very firm about this, that to ensure my own team have the right mentality, that we will not talk about certain fundraisers. In terms of the crowdfunding that we did, it was opportunism. So what you probably don't know about crowdfunding is most of the money that's raised in crowdfunding is actually not raised in crowdfunding. It's actually raised before the crowdfunding even starts. So we had actually raised, in the end, I think we raised about about £2.5 million in that round of funding that we did, right? So in effect, we'd already raised 1.6 million of that from some private investors, and we actually used the future fund as well. And at the end of it, I kind of realized that I still needed more money to do what we needed to do. So actually I thought, okay, can we wrap up that round of funding that we're just about to complete on and just wrap it into a crowd fund? And then actually 2 objectives out of that. It'll help us to raise a little bit of the extra capital that we need, and it did in the end. And hopefully get us some customers as well. Crowdfunding, probably not the right for us, for Phlo, in terms of winning customers. It was a bit difficult because the kind of people that inhabit crowdfunding generally are not our demographic that are going to use our kind of services, but we still got a lot of customers and some good PR out of it. But crowdfunding is really, really hard work, like incredibly hard work and difficult to execute on. And we found it more difficult. Now, perversely and weirdly, more mature businesses than us are probably the best businesses to do crowdfunding. So I will probably do crowdfunding in a year's time, but at that point, I have 20 or 30,000 customers already at that point. And also my brand is significantly stronger. And actually, I'll use that to bring capital in from my existing customer base and to increase my customer base. So yeah, it's a bit of a weird one, but I mean, crowdfunding can be good. I think crowdfunding is probably good at either the very start of the journey or near the, or near kind of where the business is a lot more mature. So at the very start of the journey, for example, right, is you have no money. So we're talking about the chicken egg thing we said earlier. Yep. So we need to get something up and running. So yeah, we can go and maybe raise a couple of $100,000 off crowdfunding to get things up and running, actually, and that's a nice CDIS or EIS, and that works.
Yep.
Get a couple of angels involved, and that'll work. And then it probably works really, really well when you're a business that's maybe turning over 10, 15, 20 million pounds at that point, and you've got a lot of traction, and you've got your apps out there, and you got your, people know your brand. And
yeah, we're doing Brewdog and that side of things.
So not 3 words and Chip.
Yeah, perfect.
They just did crowdfunds as part of an overall route, and so we'll do the same. But be under no illusions, crowdfunding is really, really hard and costs a lot of money to go and do in the first place. By the time you get all your marketing collateral material, and needs a lot of time. So if you're a very small startup team, like I'm talking less than 5 people, you're pretty much your entire team will be doing crowdfunding for a month and will not doing any of the work that's required to keep moving the business forward.
Yeah, absolutely. No, yeah. Without telling too much about my own job or anything, I work with founders that crowdfund, and that's not an uncommon opinion, uncommon viewpoint.
Yeah, 100%. And just to go back to the point, Johnny, as well, I talked about how we didn't disclose a lot of our funding rounds. Again, that goes to mentality, right? I am all about mentality in my company. My mentality is that we like to celebrate the successes, but we do not dwell on success. We move on to the next thing very quickly and how we can progress until we hit the final objective. And I'm a football fan. I'm not an athlete anymore. I'm too old. But I mean, whenever I play any kind of game, I'm there to win. I'm not there to win the Scottish League. I'm not here to win Division 3 or Division, I'm here to win the Champions League. So the way we always treat our mentality is, actually, I'm not going to talk about my £1 million round, but I will talk about my £20 million round next year. Make sense?
Mm-hmm. Yep. And then when the £20 million round comes along, how about the 100 one the year,
yeah,
the year after?
That can be very difficult for people that work for you. Because like I said, I don't like to celebrate. I like to celebrate success, but for me, success is a very instantaneous thing. And then I forget about it and actually go, I've achieved that. I've ticked that box. And then I want, what's the next thing? I think that can be tiring for the people that work for me, but that's what you need to have to drive it forward, in my opinion. Everybody's different, but that's the way I am.
Yeah, absolutely. Look, as I say, Nadeem, I really appreciate your time. I could sit and talk all kinds of, there's so many topics I want to talk about. I've only got through maybe a third of them. But as I say, we have some absolutely brilliant people with brilliant questions in the audience. So I'd like to invite up Emma. First things first. Emma is on our team. Emma works there. She's absolutely brilliant. All things operations, marketing. Sometimes doesn't get quite as much of the limelight because I'm here with my ugly mug. But yeah, Emma, you're brilliant. And yeah, if you'd like to kick off with the Q&A.
Yes. Hello, everyone. Thanks again, Nadeem and Johnny, for a great evening. So we've got lots of questions. So we'll go with the first one that's been upvoted, which is from Nishant, who is with us, and I will try and add you to the call. And if I can't, Johnny will do it for me.
Yep, at the stage, and okay. Nishan, if you're there, I believe I was speaking to you earlier, so I hope you haven't fallen asleep. I really, really hope you haven't fallen asleep. Would not be a good look. And there we go. Fantastic. I will disappear. So
thank you, Johnny. Thank you, Emma. And thank you, Nadeem, for giving us a good insight within your experience of establishing a company. I am a pre-seed startup. I'm looking to take my gin brand on the market in May. I've heavily invested in my personal savings without reaching out to family and friends. It's a dark corner if you come from the circle I do. So I am struggling to find right kind of investors, angels, in order to invest into my startup so I can take the brand to market, target a right audience, create an ecosystem, and sell my product. So what do you suggest? How do I find the right investor or the right platform to bring the right person on board without giving away too much equity? So I value the business at the right valuation.
Right. You've got a number of problems here, right? But problems can be solved. I think number one, you got a pre-revenue business with no product. It sounds like at this moment in time, you're almost asking people to give you money for the product. So that in effect requires you to have a very robust business plan and understanding of the market that you're looking to do, because effectively you're asking someone to take a bit of a bet and a gamble on something that's not been built yet. Frankly, as somebody, I do a little bit of angel investing as well now in other companies. At the pre-seed stage, to want something, it doesn't matter what the idea is. It's the individual. I'm actually investing in, if I was to invest, it's investing in the person. Can they go and execute on the plan? Because I think I kind of mentioned that actually Phlo, the business that Phlo turned into, has evolved quite a lot over the 2 or 3 years from the original plan and idea, and that's because we kind of kept at it. In terms of raising capital, again, at the early seed stage, the way to do it is, are there, for example, any well-known entrepreneurs who have made money in that area, which might be interested in what you do? You can approach them directly. That's what Mike Welch at Tire Scanner did with some of his investors when he got them in at the very start. You can also approach things like angel syndicates, and those angel syndicates don't need to be local either. I think people forget that I sit in Glasgow or I sit in Inverness, where my mum and dad live in the north there, and I run a business that kind of traverses the UK now. And so I think people kind of need to realise that actually London's on our doorstep, and London is basically the heart of the European venture capital ecosystem. But I think the best bet here, if you're going to raise capital, in my opinion, is to raise capital from a friendly investor who will give you some time to explain your ideas. Or you have to go and do some formal pitching to a syndicate. And that's really difficult. But I think the key is, like anything in life, is I had a lot of people say no to me. I've had a lot of people decline what I've done at Phlo. I've got a lot of people that told me I was stupid for what I do. I've proven them all wrong, right? So I think, expect for a lot of people to say no. You just need one person to say yes. Does that help?
Yes, thank you. Can I also ask you one more question? I understand there are more people, so I'll be really, really quick if you guys are okay with that.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, sure. One more.
We'll let you off.
For sure, yeah, being a bit cheeky. We have, as I say, I know you have quite a few questions. We have another one now, and then we can have.
I know it's going to finish at 8. Let it carry on. I'm happy to answer the questions. Okay.
Oh, Nadeem, I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you. So my question to you is, even though I've invested heavily to create a brand identity by partnering with a brand management company, so I can build that trust and value in business for whoever is investing, even with all that to back my business up, even there are no's, but I'm unable to find a right type of people to pin into. So the question is, which platform is the right platform for a business like myself?
I don't know enough about your business to answer that question, but like I said, I think what you need to do is you need to investigate all the syndicates out there. You need, look, one of something the best thing to do is pick up the telephone to someone, right? And they might give you some time, explain what you do, and actually it might be a really, really good fit for their syndicate, or you might. But like I said, you kind of need to understand the market you're in. If I was going to start a digital health, so honestly, I didn't have a penny of anything to start me off, I'd probably write to 2 or 3 people that are really senior in the industry, going, "I really admire what you do. This is what I'm going to do," and hopefully one of them might actually write back to me or write me an email back and actually take it from there. But I don't know if that's for your business to answer that question. I'm sorry.
Fine, thank you.
No problem at all. Thank you. Good luck.
That's great. Also excited to have so many questions. So next we've got Mo, who I met earlier on in Remo. Who's actually, are you with us, Mo? I think Johnny will be on stage.
Oh, well, he's got an invite.
Hello.
There he is.
How are you? Thank you. Thanks for the talk, Johnny, Emma, thank you. And Nadeem, it's nice to meet you as well. I'm a pharmacist myself. We're just at the startup stage as well. So we've actually applied to the regulator for online pharmacy, but it's non-NHS, it's more private healthcare services.
Sure.
My question to you is more sort of around sort of digital pharmacy, where you think the Amazon pharmacy are also coming on board in this model.
Yeah.
My background is more sort of the private healthcare. Well, I've come from community pharmacy.
Yeah.
My brother's got a manufacturing company for medication specials, so he's got that side of things. We're trying to sort of come together to build a private healthcare service online, where we would manufacture personalized medication for people who got things like acne and hair loss and that sort of thing. So we're very much sort of trying to attack the private healthcare market more so than the NHS-based market. And I just wanted to see your thoughts on that.
Yeah, well, look, my kind of view on digital pharmacy is unless you were in the online pharmacy space probably at least 12 months ago, I think the opportunity for NHS pharmacy is gone. You know, the likes of our competitors, Echo Pharmacy T, all the guys I know. I mean, our chief pharmacy officer used to be the head of pharmacy at Pharmacy TU.
Right.
We consider the NHS still to be a big opportunity because we got the brand and the technology to do it. But if I was to start today, I'd completely avoid it. We spend in the hundreds of thousands of pounds on marketing now per month. Right, you know, we have probably a £2 or £3 million marketing budget for the next 12 months. Right, the NHS side's really, really difficult. Yeah. But what you get from that side, hopefully, is a reliable payment stream that will continue for a period of time. Where the market's going to go to, though, is telemedicine, and I fully expect more patients to be paying for private healthcare because they're used to it now over the next 4 or 5 years. So there's definitely an opportunity. All I would say, my friend, is I know you're getting into it. I've been here and I've been doing this for 4 or 5 years now. So really very good space. We're probably going to raise probably 20 million. We're having those discussions now early next year. And I think us and a number of the guys that we know will be thinning the herd, if that makes sense, because, you know, there's a lot of smaller subscale. I mean, I've just bought an online pharmacy in Birmingham. Right. It's small and subscale, but I needed a base for Birmingham. So all I'd say is my advice to you, and this is purely on a personal level, it's a really difficult place to be unless you have a lot of capital now. Mm-hmm. It's hard. We got lucky. We are pre-pandemic, and we just got there lucky at the right time, right place. I think you kind of need millions of pounds now to catch up, unfortunately.
Yeah.
But my view is digital pharmacy is where it's going to go. I think there's probably going to be 5 or 6 major NHS brands doing that. That's it. We're not going to be doing on the kind of online pharmacy side. On the private side, I think the strategy we have of providing, I mean, effectively we've got a full technology platform which allows other private healthcare. So, I mean, the number of private healthcare operators that are approaching me, we have no business development capability in-house. They just approach us going, "Oh, we know you work with such and such," and next thing we're taking them on. Yeah. So I think, but like I said, I think the long-term direction of travel is more private healthcare in the pharmacy space.
Yeah. And just quickly on that before I leave it to everyone else, with regards to the platform, and you saying you were integrating it with your AI with Babylon Health is something that I found really interesting. I've seen a few other models of pharmacy where they have created a platform for private GP services to be able to prescribe and use that platform on and so register CQC registered GPs. And that sort of thing was as a market as well that we were sort of looking at. But again, the tech development of that is huge.
The way we've approached it, Mo, is that we didn't want to compete with any prescribers. Because actually, so basically, but at the very outset, I said I'm not going to prescribe. We're not a prescribing platform. But what we'll do is we'll provide the infrastructure to make the dispensing incredibly easy, and also to get it to the customer very quickly. So in London and Birmingham, Manchester, get an on-demand delivery within a couple of hours. That's worked really well. It's all that technology to plug into their own systems to make it, But yeah, there's lots of different models out there. It's just what I've realized. I had visions of when I started this, I could raise 150 grand and get it up and running. We're now raising millions of pounds and we're nowhere close, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
It's a really high capital space.
So
just be prepared. If you're going to get into the space, you need to go and raise lots of cash now.
Yeah, excellent. Well, I hope to be in a couple of years.
Like I said, you gain nothing if you don't try. So, I think the key is to finish this bit off is to go and look at what the niche is that somebody's not covering and specialize in that niche, and that's where you'll have success.
Yeah, perfect. Great advice. Thank you so much, and good luck.
Take care.
It's taking a lot to not have a smart alecky comment halfway in between there, where I'm going to absolutely soundbite that whenever, Nadeem, you buy Mo's business in about 3 years. So anyway.
So we're going to have two more, both quite different. So I'm going to go to Mans, which is the question is maybe going back to the beginning, I think, kind of how Phlo started. So do you bring them on? Don't think. Oh, there we are. There it is.
Hi, Nadeem. Thanks for taking the time today. I'm quite new to the startup space, so most of this is new, but super interesting to hear. I was curious, what made you want to start? I mean, you kind of answered it.
Yeah.
And there we said, find a niche.
It would have been like a half an hour story in its own right. So, look, I was out in Babson College in Boston, right? And actually, we went and visited a design consultancy called IDEO, so the world's most famous design consultancy. They were working with a Boston startup called PillPack, who I found incredibly interesting, especially in 2015, because it was so far out there. I mean, we're 5 years later and we're kind of catching up with what they do. And in effect, PillPack, I looked at something. So I take a prescription myself now, a regular prescription. I just was so frustrated with that whole pharmacy experience. And actually I thought, that's so cool. You got a startup that's totally doing, what I actually consider what I would do myself. I mean, so I talk about really good design. Well, PillPack had good design. They had really good engineering. They had really good service. Same thing as what we do at Phlo. And I just thought to myself, that's exactly what I would do. So I came back to the UK in 2015, and I was like, I'll do this in the UK. But what we were planning to do looked a lot like PillPack, and I realised that wasn't the model. So I took part in a couple of accelerators, and actually part of that was actually what we found was that patients actually really hated mail order pharmacy. They were actually very uncertain about getting their medication in the post because they weren't sure when it arrived, but they really liked the idea of an on-demand model, which is good old-fashioned kind of pharmacy delivery. It's what a lot of small pharmacies do anyway. But if you could wrap that up into a technology product, that's what they really, really like. So, I mean, somebody puts their order in, literally in 2 hours, I can track it like a delivery order. I will have it in my hands. That's my medication done. I don't need to worry, is the Royal Mail not delivered it, or where is it? So it was that kind of accessibility and trackability. But the main reason was, I was just interested in the space. So I, like most amateurs trying to start a company, didn't have a clue about pharmacy. I knew a little bit about it, but I have brought in a lot of very, very good people around me to fill the gaps and to allow me to go and build what I built, in effect. But like you'll find that many things in many startups are built by the founder's personal experience, and my personal experience was I had a regular prescription and I hated the whole, the whole thing, and so that was my kind of take on it. Does that help?
Yeah, no, of course. Great to hear it, and I wish you all the best.
Thank you. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you. Take care.
Take care.
Thank you very much, Mans. So we've got one last question. Clearly people could ask you questions all evening, Nadeem, which is always great. So we've got our last question that's going to come from Emra.
takes a moment to actually for the software to catch up with what we're clicking, and we have an Emma. Wonderful.
Yeah, hi
There we
there.
go.
Nadeem, I feel like I learned so much. So my question is about the hiring process. So you mentioned that because you had a few bad hires, let's say, that now you stick with people you know. And
No,
do you think...
not like that. I stick with people where I can get a reference somehow. Okay, but to answer your question, right, it's a really bad idea hiring from your same social circle. I hired a lot of tech bros at the very start and had to get rid of them, right, because they were douchebags, okay? And that's not what I wanted to build as a company, okay? I have a really diverse company now. I have lots of women in my company in senior positions. My senior leadership team is currently five of us. 2 of them are women, 3 guys, 2 women. That's a nice balance, I think, at the moment, right? But do not hire from the same social circle because it does hinder creativity. The reason we have a really good business at the moment is that we have a really diverse range of thinking. So that's not just in terms of race or ethnicity, but in terms of kind of thinking. So I mean, I've got a team of designers, I've got engineers, I've got pharmacists. So pharmacists are naturally really, really risk adverse. And I've got a team of like designers who want to push the boat, you know, so they're quite an eclectic mix. So the job is to kind of get that eclectic mix working well together. But my advice is at the very start, right, what will help you in a startup is getting people you trust to get the whole thing up and running. So, I mean, I brought Adam, he's a good friend I met in Boston. He's a good friend, you know, he's a good guy I trust. And he came in and helped me kind of pull this thing around because it wasn't going anywhere, like I said. But since then, we've got a really diverse hiring process, and I want to hire, like, we hire the best people for the job. So I hope that answers the question.
Yeah, no, I just worried that you, like, I thought you just hired people you know,
No,
but I was wrong.
Not at all. There's certain jobs, right, where I look at that job and I know there's a person that I have met in my life that I would like them to work for me and do that job for me. So I've got a head of design role, which I haven't filled because I have a person in mind that I met 2 or 3 years ago who I think is amazing. I just need to persuade them to join my company at some point. So I'll keep that role open until I find that right person. But like I said, when you've enough issues to deal with when you start something up without worrying about, so it's probably, you know, I'm a sole founder. I founded the company myself, but if I was to start again, I'd probably have to start the company with a couple of people that help with that whole trust thing, you know, your founding team, as in your 2-3 founders, for example. But yeah, trust me, that is a big mistake. Just hire from. You see that. I see it in Silicon Valley all the time. I see it in other parts of the world where actually there is no diversity in their teams, and that's not the way to do it.
Yeah.
Like, so, I'm kind of lucky because I'm not. You know, my family are immigrants anyway. I get this, right? But if you want to build world-class teams, make them as diverse as possible. And actually, my mentality is I don't care what you look like. I don't care what you sound like. I don't care, you know, I don't care any of that. What I care is, are you competent? And actually, what is your attitude to life like to help me build what I want to build? Yeah?
Yeah, no, that's amazing. Yeah, that's such a good answer. Thank you.
Cool. Thank you.
Fantastic. As I say, Nadeem, thank you so very much for coming in and for staying for a little extra time for the audience
No,
Q&A
it's
as
fine.
well. So I really appreciate it. The final thing we're going to do is I'm going to bring up my director over in it, or our director over in Edinburgh. We're all Starground Scotland. Talk a little bit about what's coming next. And quickly before or after, for those of you that would like to hang around, have a beer that has been staring me in the face for the last little while, we'll still be on the tables for those that can hang around. If you can't, have a wonderful evening. I hope you enjoyed it. If you can, brilliant. And Dick, take it away.
Amazing. Thank you, Johnny. And thank you, Nadeem. Just wanted to give you a quick shout out. Awesome event. If I'd had myself not on mute, you would have heard me scribbling away all the notes and sound bites. So we appreciate your time. Johnny and I are massive fans, as I'm sure you'll know. And looking forward to seeing you go from strength to strength. So you're probably all thinking, everyone, how can you possibly follow this? Big shoes to fill, possibly literally. Don't know what shoe size you're on, Nadeem. But anyway, joking aside, we are really excited actually about the next event. And you guys are the first to hear. So we've actually not even started promoting yet. We'll be promoting tomorrow. I'll stop with the teasing and share that we are hosting the founders of Uni, Christian and Dorina Garland. You may or may have not heard of them. To give you guys a bit of context, they have now done 50 million plus revenue, 100 plus countries. An amazing story. Very much looking forward to it. It's a special treat. We're going to give you guys a bit of a discount and some early access. I genuinely believe this will sell out. So if you guys are keen, if you guys are free on Thursday, the 25th of February, same time, 6:30 to around 8, 8:30, we'd love to see you. And with that said, Johnny, I'll pass over to you if you want to give any final thoughts and anything else.
Absolutely brilliant. As I say, Nadeem, once again, thanks so much for your time. And
no worries at all, Johnny. Just to add to Deck there, Dorina and Christine are good personal friends of mine. They are amazing. I've learned a lot from them. They are the beacons of positivity. They're also, they're fantastic. So I wholly suggest, because I will be signing up, that everybody signs up to that one. That will be a good one.
Brilliant. Absolutely fantastic. So, Nadeem, thank you so much. Deck, thanks for dropping by. And I guess we'll kick back to the tables. For those of you who can hang around, I'll enjoy a beer with a few of you guys. For those that can't, have a wonderful evening. And this has been Starground. We'll speak to you again soon.